Hello, and welcome to part three of what to do when life spreads you thin. Now, just to recap, in part one, we spoke about adopting the perspective that when times become challenging, the universe is merely asking us to grow. In part two, we talked about practical applications, tips and tricks that you can utilize to construct a customized response that's resourceful for you when times do become challenging so that you can pull that ripcord and move through it successfully and with more ease. Now, in part three, we're going to talk about wrapping it all up. So, in summation, there are two questions that you want to ask anytime you've already moved through a challenging situation, whether you met that with success or with failure or a mixture of both, as is often the case. And those two questions are, what can I learn from this? And how can I not repeat it in the future? Okay. So, in order to illustrate this point, I'm first going to tell a story, give an example that's loosely based on my own experience, and I think it will help move us to some of the practical questions you can ask yourself in order to abstract what the lesson is from the challenge that you incurred. So, story is, you're having some difficulty with your car. You notice, something's a little off. You kind of ignore it, kind of put it off, until one day you're coming to a stoplight and you notice, man, this sounds really bad. I got to take it to a mechanic. So you take it to a mechanic, and the mechanic looks at it, gives you a call, and it's the dreaded call where it's, $1,200 worth of work, lots and lots of money. It's all relative, what's a lot of money to you, but nonetheless, no one wants a bill like that for their car, right? So the mechanic says, what's wrong? He says, well, all four calipers are warped and down, to nothing, and they have scratches in them, and all of your brakes are gone. Sorry, not calipers. All four rotors are warped. All the calipers are locked up. All your brake pads are gone, and now you need all this work. We need to unstick the calipers, we need to replace the brake pads, replace all the rotors, etc., so forth. Now, this is something that was almost certainly a long time coming, and there's a lot of reasons that people are detached from driving their car. I'm not going to go into that in this talk, or consciousness in general in our society and abroad, but nonetheless, this happens to a lot of people all the time. They have a problem that's been kind of creeping up on them, and they get some huge bill or some diagnosis or something, some issue that they don't want to deal with now, but it's big and they have to. And usually it's going to become pretty evident that there's no way this happened overnight, right? So, in this example, here's the questions that we want to ask, and this is true for all challenging times. The first question is, what is your self-talk like? Okay. The second question is, what are your relationships like? Third is, are you acting responsibly for your dreams, love, and desires? And lastly, are you embracing consciousness or eschewing it? So in this example, what's your self-talk like? Let's say you're driving the car and you say, oh, I hope that's not a big deal. Like you feel like a little tug, I don't have the money for that right now. I hope this doesn't turn into a big bill. I can't deal with the car problem. So you see where I'm going with this? You're setting yourself up. In terms of what are your relationships like, maybe you're distracted. Maybe your life's full of chaos, and that includes your relationship with yourself, by the way. But, maybe you're so wrapped up in the drama of your relationships that you're not paying attention to your car or to your whatever. Are you acting responsibly for your dreams, love, and desires? So if let's say you're just ignorant, everybody starts out that way. We all start out knowing nothing. And, but the caveat is that when you do come up against this kind of resistance, that you're supposed to learn from it so that you can continue to act more responsibly for your dream, loves, and desires. So if part of your dream requires participating in society in a way where you do drive a car, then it's your responsibility to become adept at becoming a car owner and learning how to maintain it. embracing consciousness or eschewing it? So I alluded to this a little bit before, but basically, how woke are you? How awake are you in general? In your day, in your week, in your month, and all things that you do? Are you distracted, or are you purposely putting your consciousness into each moment? The latter is generally the way to go, in my experience. Um, so, what happens when a car has this kind of problem is that, see, the calipers are what press the brake pads together to stop the rotor from moving. So the rotor's moving like this. There's an axle, there's two rotors and two wheels, and it's moving like this, and they squeeze, and it stops the rotor, it stops the car. Now, most modern cars, that's how their brakes are. And you can see a really pared down version of this on most bicycles. They have two little clamps and a little disc, right? So, caliper, which holds two brake pads, and a rotor, which spins, and the friction, creates the stopping of the vehicle. And when you don't maintain your brakes, they get lots of dust and gunk on them, and the calipers can't go open and close anymore. They get gunky and they stop moving, and they might stop closed, which is not good because then the rotor heats up and the brake pads just shear off, and it creates, eventually malfunction. So you're constantly braking while you're driving. It's kind of weird, but a lot of cars, this happens. It's a little bit normal. I mean, if you drive your cars, it's eventually going to happen to you if your car gets old. But you can tell if this happens, right? So if you're braking and your steering wheel tugs, or if you notice any kind of noise while you're driving, or any resistance, like you sense that you're not accelerating the way that you normally do, a simple test is you can hop out of your vehicle after a short trip and see if the rotor's hot. If you can't touch it, if it's that hot, it means that the caliper's stuck when it's not supposed to be, and that it's creating a lot of friction, and that's why the rotor's so hot. Your rotors generally shouldn't be hot, so if you know your vehicle's up to par, check it out. So you can do more reading on all this stuff, but let's say in this example, all that stuff was happening for months, and you had terrible self-talk, and your relationships had you distracted, and you didn't know any of these things to begin with about maintaining a car, and suffice to say, because of all that, you weren't acting very responsibly for your dreams, love, and desires. That happens. So then you ask yourself, how do I learn from this, and how do I not repeat it again? So I've already given some of the lessons that can be learned. That's the learning phase, the assimilation phase, and then once that's happened, you move into the stage of prevention and education of others, right? So now you have true wisdom because your knowledge has been authenticated as experience. Thanks, Paul Check. That's a good one. And I don't know if he stole that from someone, but that's where I heard it. So your knowledge has been authenticated as experience. You have true wisdom that you can apply in the future. So maybe next time you start feeling that tug on the steering wheel, you say, oh man, I hope my caliper's okay. I better get out and check it, see if it's locking up. Oh, I see it's locking up. Let me take it to the mechanic, and they can fix it right now before my rotors are busted and I have no brake pads. Or you can educate others. So let's say you're driving around with your friend and you notice their cars smell, like when you get out, there's a smell, and you notice the rotor's really hot. Hey, your brake might have an issue. Like, you feeling anything different? Do you smell that? And then you can help others move through challenges with a little bit less pain, and they can learn quicker because you've already learned it, and you can help everybody, right? Everyone's needs get met. The high tide raises all ships. So that's all I got. Hopefully that was concise and helpful for you guys. I know it's been super helpful for me, and it's taken some time to learn it and make this presentation for you, which I'm happy to do. I'm going to be coming out with a lot more, and I hope that you join me and check them out and share them and get something from them. Now, I do want to leave you with one last thing, and it's something I just started doing within the last year or so. Instead of asking yourself for a break, say, give me a break. Universe, give me a break. Instead of doing that, wish for a breakthrough. So remember, you don't want to break, you want to break through. As always, be gifted, stay blessed. Thanks.